Welcome to our Roman shades tutorial. We're going to walk through the quickest and easiest way that we've found to make shades for your house. I'm going to quickly list everything that you need to get started. First step is to measure your window's width and length. This is 34 by 61, and we're going to cut the fabric to add 3 inches to the width and at least 5 inches to the length. Fabric 1 inch shorter than the window's width. So ours is 34 inches, so we're going to cut it to 33 inches, and then we're going to keep it to be the same height as the cut drapery fabric. Now we're going to face our drapery fabric toward the liner. I know this seems counterintuitive, but we're going to line up one edge and we're going to pin it. Get out the fabric face up lengthways on the table, and then I put the drapery lining on top, and I've really lined it up right on the edge here, and I'm just going to pin all the way down. Fabric with a 1/2 inch mark. Hopefully yours is marked too. And I'm lowering the needle, I'm putting down the foot, and then I'm just gently going to run the fabric along the 1/2 inch seam allowance. I've sewn down one whole side with the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this is the sort of confusing bit, but I'm going to pin and sew the lining side on this edge. Now the lining feels a lot shorter, and you're going to pull it and pin it so it lines up with this edge, and then do the exact same 1/2 seam sewing, and I'll show you why. But it's really important that you stay with those measurements so that it fits your window well. We've just finished sewing the second edge, and now what we're going to do is center the lining on the back of the fabric so that we make the edge of the curtain. Essentially what you're doing is centering the lining by pulling it and creating an edge with the fabric here. We've ironed down both sides, and these are the edges of the curtains. I'm just quickly checking to make sure that we have enough, and we're perfectly at 34, which is exactly where we want to be. Quickly sewing up the bottom now, the same 1/2 inch seam allowance. The next thing that we're going to do is calculate the spacing between the dowels. For most curtains, it should be 8 to 10 inches, but because we're making an exceptionally long one, we've spaced them out to 13. And you calculate the distance between the bottom and the first dowel by dividing that number in half and then adding an inch. So in our case, it's 6.5 plus 1 inch, so 7.5 inches. Then the 13, and then you just want to make sure that at the top, it's at least the width between them plus a couple inches. So basically the idea is that you want to have this be bigger, these be even, and this be smaller, and that will be the most aesthetically pleasing result. In our case, we're going to have 14.5 inches at the top, and then 13, 13, 13, and then 7.5. So the seam is the bottom of the curtain, plus 2.5 inches for the fold, plus what we just calculated. So in our case, it's 7.5 plus 2.5 is 10 inches. So I'm going to measure from the seam at 10 inches across. I'm just marking it in a couple points, not making a huge line. And that will be where our first dowel goes. And then from there, we'll measure up the 13 inches. The dowel should be an inch shorter than the finished width. So in our case, we're dealing with 34 inches. So I'm going to cut them at 33 with the saw. My saw work is subpar. The thing that we're going to do is make the pockets for the dowel. We're going to grab our lining fabric, and we are going to cut 4-inch pieces and then fold them in half. So this is folded in half, And then the most important thing is that you iron them after you folded them to get a really straight line across the top. And then we're gonna run them through the sewing machine at the 3/4 inch allowance. So we zip through, get a nice hem, and then we trim off the excess as neatly as possible. Our curtains are a little bit sheer, so you can, when the light is shining through, you can see them. So this is something that you want to be a little bit more meticulous about compared to some of the other steps. So let's do it. Okay, so the Stitch Witchery is a two-step process. So the first thing that you're going to do is lay out your pocket on the ironing board. Lay your Stitch Witchery across the top of it, making sure that it's directly on the pocket and it's all the right shape and length. And then you're going to run the heat of the iron. Don't touch it, but and it likes to jump up. So stay a little bit higher, but you're just gonna run the heat of the iron gently over. You get to slide the dowel into the pocket, put it in, and this is the last one to go in. So we've already done the other 3. You turn your curtain inside out. So this is when we get to see our mass tree. And you just want to sort of hold the dowels together, and you just have to finagle it without ripping the fabric. But you just take them through. I do one side and then the other. All the dowels through. I want to put them all through. Yep, make sure that they're even. And then we will start with the curtain. 3 rings, these little plastic rings, which is what the cord is going to run through, to each dowel. So I've marked the middle, and I'm just quickly running this needle and thread through the top layer as tightly as possible. We've attached all of our rings, and now we're going to hem up the bottom of the curtain, and we are allowing for 2.5 inches as our fold. But I'm also just really I have a very patterned fabric, so I'm just keeping an eye on the pattern to make sure that it's straight all the way across. So I would say, like, don't rely on the measurement as much as looking at the pattern just to make sure that it makes sense, because that really will read in the window. And we did a pretty good job, but it's like a little higher on this side. So I'm pinning it, I'm gonna iron it, and then I'm just gonna quickly run the sewing machine down it. We're inserting the metal rod at the bottom of the curtain. This is gonna hold the fabric straight and make everything really neat. And we've hemmed the bottom, and we're just sliding it in here, super easy. And then we're just gonna quickly hand stitch up the corners so that it doesn't slide out. Run my needle and thread along here and here. Bear with me for a second. I'm just gonna explain this. This is the 2x1 or 1x2 that you pick up from the hardware store. And the curtain is gonna install into the window this way. And you want the front edge to have the pulleys and the board close to it. So when we put I'm gonna turn it this way, but when we put our screws in, they're only 1/2 inch up from the bottom. So ignore these 2 because that's going to attach to the actual window. So basically you can ignore all that for now, but you want to pick the side and make sure that they're even. So 2.5 inches in from one edge, which will line up with your eye hook, you'll have 1/2 inch up, a mark. Same with the middle, same with this edge. And then you have to pick the side that you want the cord to come down on. On this one, we're having our cord come down on this side. So 1/2 inch in and 1/2 inch in this way. In this lower corner, I've made a mark and I'm going to attach an eye screw. I know that was complicated, but it'll make sense. So just rewatch it and I'll try to explain it in the text. Okay, I have a drill bit which is smaller than the eye hook that I'm using. I'm not going to drill into the table, I hope, but I'm just quickly going into all of these holes. My 4 holes, and put my 4 eye hooks in. You just screw them in. So you can see now, I think probably a little more clearly, that these are close to this side of the wood. And then remember, 2.5 in. This one is for the cord edge. And then I measured in the center of these 2 more holes. And in the center of the wood, not close to the edge, we're going to drill 2 more holes. And those are going to attach into the window. Ready? Okay, so I've turned the curtain around so that the bottom is facing you, and I've measured the length of the window. So ours is 61 inches. So I measured up from the bottom, which is hemmed, and I marked it here. And I left extra room this time because last time I got a little tight. And so now you can see what I mean by front edge. So this is going to have the tiniest overhang because it really is snug in the window. You just want to make sure it's equal on both sides. And that you're at your marked spot. The holes now line up with the eye hole. The eye hooks line up with the eye holes on each side. And then I'm going to wrap it around, snug, and I'm going to staple gun it. Where is that thing? The last step for hanging of the curtain. So this is the curtain cord, which we got on Amazon. And you just run it from the outside edge all the way through your eye hooks. And then you're going to go down through the first side, through the top, down the first edge. And I'm just tying it off in a double knot here. So 1, 2. I'm bringing it down this side. And you want to get most of the way down the blind. So I'm just going to cut it here. Basically, I have it tied off on that one. It's run all the way through, and then I have it going the full length of the curtain, but not attached to anything on that side. And then I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to go through the middle. So you're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the middle one, and then you're going to run down here, and then you're going to tie it off on the last one. Same thing, double knot. The cord down here, and then the last one is just going to run through the first 2 and down. Excellent instructions. Okay, so it's going through the first 2 and down the last row. So these are the 3. They've been trimmed at the same length, and I'm just tying a knot. But this is where you would put a pretty bauble if you wanted to. So that's that. So
it's ready for installation.
It's ready for installation. We have to go home to install it, but I'm just gonna hold it up for you so you can see what's happening. Basically, it's gonna attach into your window, which we'll review. And then you would just pull it up this way, and it's gonna look better than that. So you have to train the fabric a couple times. So we'll bring it home, quickly install it, and then we'll run through that process. All right, so we're here in the laundry room. We're doing this room next, so ignore. But you can see that I put in 2 wood screws. Come check it out. Spin this and attach it to the window.